Hey there YouTube, AJ here, and I got a little project today. I'm going to be taking this old tractor seat that I garbage picked, and I'm going to be using it to make a stool for my workbench in my garage. I'm going to be trying out a product I've never used before. It's a Rustoleum Rust Reformer, and it's to convert rust to a paintable surface, and then paint it with another type of paint. Now, I've used a lot of Rustoleum products before, and I'm generally very happy with them. I like using them. I've never used their Rust Reformer before though. This tractor seat's pretty rusty. So one of the reasons I want to try this one out is to see how it works for potential use of my hot rod project. This is a nice easy little project. I can try it out. The seat's pretty rusty, so I think it'll be a good test for it. Plus, another reason I want to do this test is I want to try another paint out for the color to see if I want to use that on my hot rod wheels. Anyway, instructions are pretty simple. It says to wire brush everything down, get all the loose stuff off, and then it says to wash it with soap and water and let it dry before you use it. So let's see what happens. So give you a look at what it looks like before I start. There's the seat bolts. They're pretty rusty. I don't know how hard it is going to be to see those, but apparently this was a green color at one point. Yeah, you can see the green up here on the seat. It's pretty rusty. The cracks down in there is what I'm kind of worried about in here. There's a lot of grime in there. I can't take this plate off without undoing the spot welds, so we're just gonna let it go and do our best to get in it, and we'll just paint over what's left. This isn't a restoration. Okay, so before we wash it and then paint it with the Rust Reformer, first thing we're going to do is kind of get some video evidence of what it looked like before. I tried to make different amounts of surface prep across the whole thing, so I could kind of see how it performs with how much prep you actually need. You saw I was wire brushing some parts. I was using my 4.5 inch grinder with a wire wheel on it for some parts. You can see, I don't know if you can see in there, but it's a lot more crusty in the where the two pieces meet. I just can't get in there to clean that very well at all. And then we turn it over on the seat side. You can see some areas actually have bare metal. Some areas still have some of the original paint on it, but it's smoothed up with the wire wheel. So I think it's going to be a pretty diverse sample here for me to look at. Then I also wire wheeled the original nut, carriage bolt for the seat, locking washer, and the big flat washer. You can see one side of this was pretty pitted. The other side still had original paint on it. So we're gonna hose this stuff down. I'm not going to use soap. I don't have soap. I do have soap someplace probably, but I'm not going to go through that much effort. Again, this may not be a completely fair test because I'm not following their instructions to the letter, but we'll, I think it's going to be a reasonable test for the way a lot of people are going to use this thing. So let's wash this off and get it drying. Okay, so post rinse. Got everything sit out here in the sun to let it dry. Got my hardware pieces over here drying. So we'll come back in an hour or so and see how we're doing. Okay, so I think I got it dried enough here. I'm kind of worried about down in that crevice between the plate and the seat itself. It's really crusty in there. I'm just gonna slather in a bunch of paint and hope for the best on that part. But yeah, the rest of it looks pretty good, I think. Good for the test. And then I got my hardware over here, all the original old hardware, so I want to try to reuse that. So, gonna break out the paint and see what happens. Seems to cover very nicely. I like the way it goes on. Seems to flash off pretty quickly to a flat black. Looks almost dry. Really fast. So you can see, it already looks kind of dry. It doesn't look wet at all. I haven't touched it or anything. Covers very nice. Now in terms of how much coverage you get out of a can, I don't know. We're going to give these a chance to flash and then I'll flip them and paint the other sides. Basically going to be using this as a primer. Yeah, it doesn't feel tacky. Kind of like that, something you can move quickly. And this is not a precision project. I guess I could talk about the price of this. 3 cans. 10 1/4 ounce cans, so they're kind of small cans. I feel like I've used a half to 2/3 of it so far. I don't know if that's accurate or not, but that's what it kind of feels like. But anyway, 3 cans, 10 1/4 ounce cans, was like $18.50. I bought them in a 3-pack off Amazon. I'll put the link in the description. See there, I'm covering pretty much bare metal. Supposedly, I was reading some information on this. The system they use on this can to spray with is designed to spray at all angles, upside down included. So that's kind of a nice feature when you're working with something like this. And in the future, I'm planning, if I like how this works out, I'll probably be using a lot of this on the hot rod project, which means I could be like laying on the ground painting upwards. Being able to spray at all angles would be a helpful thing. Alright, I think I'm going to let it go at that. I'm supposed to let it dry for 24 hours. After 24 hours you can top coat it, so gonna let this dry and we'll come back tomorrow and paint this. Okay, so it's been 24 hours. Yeah, everything's dried. I like the feel of the texture. Seems to have covered very well. Looking at the bolts, even the threads are painted without like filling up the threads with paint, so that's nice. The seat is really pitted, so that's not the texture of the paint that you see there, that pebbling, that's just the pits and the rust. It's pretty smooth right here. Let's see where. You can see I like this edge here. That was a pretty smooth edge, almost bare metal, I think, around this part here. So yeah, it doesn't add any kind of texture to the metal. So overall, I'm very happy with it. I like it. I guess the next step is to top coat it and see how it works with other paints. I'll be using this Rustoleum Painter's Touch 2x Ultra Cover Paint and Primer. Also bonds to plastic. It says gloss real orange, but the cap isn't really glossy or anything. I kind of want to test this out just to see how it looks. I think it's going to be too orange for what I want it for, but we'll see after it dries, because paints tend to dry different colors than the caps and the cans look. It's really until you do an actual spray out with them, it's kind of hard to tell what their true color is. I'm not real impressed with the Rustoleum Painter's Touch. It's the first time I've used this. I only had like a half a can. It wasn't a new can. Honestly, don't remember where I got that can from or if I used it on something. I don't ever remember using this before. The color isn't too bad. It's a little too bright for what I want, so it's not one I won't be using it for my wheels on my hot rod. But the coverage is not good at all. Like laid on a lot of paint. I can still see spots through this. It doesn't spray evenly. The pattern isn't good coming out of the can. So I'm not impressed with that stuff. So I don't even know if I'm going to have enough to paint the other side once this dries. And like I said, the bottom is not even, you can still see blotchy spots in this. I mean, it's good enough for what I'm doing here, but I'm not thinking I'd want to use this for a project I really wanted to do a nice coat of paint on. Okay, well, the Painter's Touch paint is dry. My opinion of the paint doesn't change. I hate it, the way it coats, how thin it is, the way it covers, it runs. It doesn't cover well, and it takes way too much of a can of paint to cover this one seat. So it's not an option for what I want it to do, even though I actually like the color of it once it's dried. So I've given up on that. I'm going to go ahead and recoat this seat with regular old Rustoleum Gloss Orange, see what it looks like on here. I don't know if it's going to be a good color sample because it's going to be on top of this orange, so just from this test, I don't know if I'll be able to tell if I want to use this for my wheels or not. Okay, so I'm done with my little stool project. At some point I'll probably try to clean up the base a little bit with some steel wool. So that's just an old stool base that a friend of mine gave me. I'm kind of repurposing it for my garage stool. This is the worst of the three he gave me. So I might try to clean up the base a little bit with some steel wools about that, make it a little better. I didn't film how I mounted the seat, although I thought that was going to be kind of boring, but might have turned out to be kind of interesting. But I ended up having to go and make a little wood base to go on the rotisserie part, and then I used a frying pan to mount the stool to the base, mainly just because I didn't have material the right thickness that would bolt through. But anyway, that's not what this video is really about. It was mainly about the Rust Reformer, which, happy with that. I liked how it worked. I will continue to use that, and I may update you further on that one. But the Rustoleum Rust Reformer seemed to work very well. I love the way it covered, the way it covered the paint, and the spray pattern and everything about it. The Rustoleum 2x Painter Touch, blah. That stuff was garbage. Didn't like that at all. It was so super thin and didn't cover paint at all. Good old regular Rustoleum Stops Rust works as it like it always has and always will. That is a great paint. I love that stuff. So there we go. So the verdict is the Rustoleum Rust Reformer seems to be good stuff. I like it. The only time will tell how well it performs in the long run. I'm probably going to pull the bumpers off my Jeep and strip them and paint them with that, and then paint it with a gloss black or a satin black probably, or semi-gloss or something in between. But anyway, so I'll probably be pulling them off and using that. regular Rustoleum, I've always had nothing but good things to say about regular good old stock Rustoleum. I love that stuff. Anyway, until next time, YouTube, take it easy.